Of all the screw ups in the Bobby Hurley era, it's hard to think that Jayden Quaintance can be topped, but there's real competition.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your guide, Richie Bradshaw, here to give you expert coverage of all things Arizona State Sun Devils, from the gridiron to the hardwood and everything in between. The Bobby Hurley era has had a lot of screw-ups. The undisputed miss of Jayden Quaintance is where we start, plus the lack of talent that he's been developing. We also got to take a look at some recruiting blunders, including one of the biggest misses in program history, before we wrap up the show with the postseason woes and how it feels watching everybody else have a good time. But how do we not start this conversation of the biggest fumbles in the history of the Bobby Hurley era of Sun Devils basketball? And how does it not start with Jayden Quaintance? Because I can't think of anything more infuriating than the way that this ended up going about, because Jayden Quaintance should have had his jersey number up in the rafters. He never should have left this program. 17-year-old kid, top 10 recruit out of Raleigh, North Carolina, flipped his commitment from Kentucky to Arizona State. 17 years old, has to play 2 years, minimum 2 years of college basketball. He is not eligible for this year's draft because he is not turning 18 by the time it starts. Out of his mind talented. 6'9", 230 pounds. Dude flies around the court. Phenomenal scorer. Great defensively. He set ASU's blocks record for a freshman. He did everything. And even more so than that, he got fans excited. That is difficult to do because ASU basketball is pretty forgettable. It's not something that fans are dying to watch. It's basketball season. Well, I got nothing else to do. I guess I'll throw a game on and hopefully they're competitive. That's the way that we typically look at ASU basketball. And it's been that way forever. It's not just a Bobby Hurley thing. But Jayden Quaintance comes here, and all of a sudden, people are like, yeah, I want to tune in. I want to watch this. This kid is being talked about as potential number one pick in the 2026 NBA draft. Like, there's a lot of hype here for this kid. And look at the NIL that's coming in, because Bobby Hurley was bringing in a few $1 million. And Joe Sansan, another 5-star who we'll talk about later, was bringing in money as well. And look at the success that the football team is having. And look at the success that we're having across the board with all our sports. And it's like, it only makes sense that basketball is going to join that. And Jayden Quaintance was going to be the catalyst for all of that. And it didn't happen. Now, I understand that he ended up having a much more serious knee injury than what we thought. I think at one point in time, we thought it was hyperextended. He tore his ACL. That is a drastic injury. So it's not a wonder that he was not 100% towards the end of the year. But when we saw him on the court, he was special. That was a walking double-double. And it just felt like Bobby was not able to maximize his talent, injuries aside, because the whole team was injured last year. So we can't just make a single exception here for Jayden Quaintance. But you have to keep him. You can't let him leave. And that's exactly what happened. Quaintance left in the transfer portal. He is back at Kentucky, where he originally where he originally committed. And this program's in turmoil. And the loss of Jayden Quaintance just adds so much salt and bleach and lime juice to this wide open wound. It's nothing short of an abysmal failure and a fireable offense. But I think we're still stuck with Bobby Hurley. But if you think that not getting the most out of Jayden Quaintance was the worst, well, I've got a handful of guys who came before Jayden Quaintance, who did not work out. Now, real quick, I am not going to mention Joson Sannon with these upcoming guys of didn't get the most out of them because he was injured, and when he was on the court, he was phenomenal. Similar to Jayden Quaintance. Like, he didn't waste that talent. He didn't fail to develop it. There was injuries that held him back. Sannon, healthy, was phenomenal. He's going to tear it up at St. John's. These guys, I don't think he got the most out of them. First one, maybe a little controversial. And I'm saying Josh Christopher. And I understand that's not going to sit well with some fans. I totally do. Because for all intents and purposes, he did have success at ASU. He was the top-rated recruit in program history prior to Jayden Quaintance committing. He played in 15 games in the 2020 season, missed most of it with injuries. In that time, he was just under 30 minutes a game, 14.3 points per game. He was shooting 43% from the field. He was 80% on the line, only 30% from deep. He was good. We didn't get the most out of him, so you could put him in that Joson Sannon territory. But the thing for me that places him in the failing to develop talent category here is that Hurley couldn't get him to stay. And I understand one and done is super popular in college basketball. And players as talented as Josh Christopher, who's still in the NBA right now, he's still hanging around. It's tough to get them to stay. But you would think after a promising season where you were very limited, you might have been able to convince him to, hey, you do this for a full season, you're going to be a very high draft pick. He was still the 24th overall pick, but if he puts those numbers together over the length of a season, he might get drafted a lot higher than that. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a failure on Bobby Hurley's part, especially for him to be the highest recruit ever and be the 24th overall pick where he could have been picked much higher. These next two, you want to talk about misses. These are misses. We're going to start with Enoch Boayke. Class of 2021, 4-star center. He was the 5th highest recruit ever. He played in 50 games in 2 years. That's a lot. That's pretty good. He made 3 starts. Okay, that's not as good. He averaged less than 9 minutes per game. 1.5 points per game. 52.4% shooting from the field on, 2 shots a game on average. 31.3% shooter from the free throw line. And he never attempted a 3 in his 2 years, which I'm totally good with. I don't like seeing centers shoot it. Jayden Quaintance, I love you. I don't know fundamentally what was missing here for Boayke, but I do believe firmly that better coaching could have set him up for more success. And, every once in a while, those top kids, those 4 stars, 5 stars are just busts. But we've got 10 years worth of knowledge now, 10 years of experience and 10 years worth of data that can point to this and be like, this feels like much more of a coaching problem because he has no problem getting these 4-star, 5-star kids in, but then they fail. So Boayke ends up being a 2-time transfer, never heard from again. Here's an interesting one. Marcus Bagley. Ooh, what a weird player, right? First of all, I do want to pose a question. Do you still like Marcus Bagley? Let me know in the comments. I am very curious what you guys think. Bagley was also in the 2020 recruiting class with Josh Christopher. He was a 4-star. I think he was a 5-star on ESPN or Rivals, something like that. He managed over 3 years with ASU, just under 28 minutes a game, 10.9 points per game, 37.7% field goal shooting, 33.3% three-point percentage, 69.2% free throws. It's not bad. And I mean, he was a forward, so it's not like you were going into his tenure here expecting him to be some 20-plus point guy per game. I mean, you were getting double-digit points out of him per game. The shooting was fine. He was a big physical player. So all of that over 3 seasons is pretty good. Well, he only played 17 games in 3 seasons. 17 games. Injuries were a huge factor. But then there were some off-the-court problems. And Bagley and Bobby did not get along. And it ended up leading to multiple team-imposed suspensions against Bagley in his final year of college basketball. And he was on Twitter and he was saying stuff. It led to another suspension. And eventually he had put something out that said, hey, for recruits, make sure that you're doing everything that you possibly can to prepare yourself, because, some places are just in it to get you to go there and not for your best interest. And I mean, maybe at the time we're like, okay, what a snake. But we look back and it's like, oh, he might have been onto something. Insane what happened. They also missed on Tayshaun Cherry. They missed on Sam Cunliffe and Kamani Lawrence. For what it's worth, I know he played his whole career at ASU. He never got to his max potential. The lone exception that I can give Hurley even a little bit of credit for is Lugens Dort for the Oklahoma City Thunder now. Lou Dort, the torture chamber. There we go. 4-star guard. I think he was a 5-star on another place. I always go to 24/7. Class of 2018. He was a stud, man. Almost 32 minutes a game, 16 points a game. He was just phenomenal, and tons of conference accolades. Second team Pac-12 all conference. Second team all Pac-12 defense. Or first team all defense for Pac-12. Freshman offensive player of the year in the Pac-12. First team all freshman Pac-12. He goes one and done, somehow undrafted in 2019, which is kind of crazy. But he ends up going on to be sign a 2-way contract with the Thunder, and now he's still there, and he is a key contributor for them. That's the lone exception that you can give here for Bobby Hurley. And I still feel like maybe another year could have helped Dort to not go undrafted, but you know what? He's found his success anyway, and I would tell you it's in spite of Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley knows how to recruit, but he also knows how to waste those recruits. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let me talk to you about our friends over at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to get and order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to get you and the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You will always be able to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program. Go to supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And if you use the promo code SH5, you'll get 5% off of your order. That's supplyhouse.com. Wherever you get your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you'll get the update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. And shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Nobody recruits as well as Bobby Hurley, and no one wastes those recruits as well as Bobby Hurley. When I was first going through this, I was only going to talk about the 2024 recruiting class, the best class that Bobby Hurley has ever brought together. And then I realized that he has had 3 classes that should have altered this program and didn't. But we'll start with 2024. We already talked about Jayden Quaintance. Best recruit ever, couldn't hold on to him. 5-star Joson Sannon also committed to this program. Healthy Sannon, phenomenal. One of my favorite players that I've seen over the last several years for Sun Devils basketball. Transfers. He's at St. John's now. He was not a guy you wanted to lose. He was the first guy to enter the portal. 4-star Amir Ali, another top 100/top 50 recruit, depending on your source. He got on the court a lot at the end of the season, and he got really, really good at the end of the season. He was lighting it up. Also, 11th highest rated recruit for Sun Devils in the history of the basketball program. The number 1, the number 3, and the number 11 highest rated recruit in program history at the time. What happened? They went 13-20. 13-20. By the way, the worst record in the Bobby Hurley era. 13-20. Let that sink in. The best recruiting class the Sun Devils program, not just Bobby Hurley, the program has ever had. 13-20. That's pathetic. And yet that wasn't even one of their biggest fumbles, because then you have the 2020 recruiting class, and what a disaster that was. This was the class that could have changed everything. This was the class that very easily could have put a huge stamp forward for this program to say, we're here, we have arrived. This is where things start going our way. Josh Christopher, the 5-star, who was originally the highest rated recruit, now the 2nd highest rated recruit in this class. Marcus Bagley, 4-star/5-star, depending on where you look. He is the 6th highest rated recruit in the history of the program. And 4-star Pavlo Dizuba, my apologize, Pablo, if you are seeing this, 17th highest rated recruit. They went 11-14. Games were canceled that year due to COVID and whatnot, but 11-14 with, at the time, the highest rated recruit the program had ever had, and another recruit who was inside the top 5 for highest rated recruits ever. 11-14. And then you have the 2018 class, and this was supposed to be the sign of things to come. This was supposed to be the class that put ASU on the map and put Bobby Hurley on the map. 2020 should have changed everything. 2024 should have been the greatest class ever. It was the greatest class ever, and I wasted it. But 2018, this was the 4th recruiting class for Bobby Hurley. This was when he was supposed to be able to put his foot down and say, we're here. I have taken my time with this program, and we're ready to compete. A loaded class, man. 4-star Tayshaun Cherry, another guy that he managed to waste, was also a 5-star on 24/7. 4-star Lou Dort ended up becoming a good pro, was very good in his lone season here. 4-star Elias Valtonen and 4-star Euros Plavsic. Hope I pronounced that right too. They put together a good season. 22-10, the greatest season of the Bobby Hurley era. Unfortunately, they did not get to do their thing. They did not get to do their thing. Lost in the round of 64. They beat, I believe, St. John's in the first 4 play-in tournament, which if you listen to the show, you know I don't count that for the tournament. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I just don't. Wasted it. That was a great recruiting class. It was a great team. And that's why it was supposed to be the sign of things to come. And that's why I look back at this and I go, yeah, you wasted it. Because 1, you didn't get a tournament win out of it. 2, you didn't build off of it. Like a couple of years later, yeah, the 2020 class looks great, but they didn't do anything with it. So 2018 is a waste for me. It is what it is. But you know what? Unforgivable misses. Talk about what could have been. Koa Peat. Yep, they the most recent heartbreak. I guess second most recent, because Jayden Quaintance entered the portal after Koa Peat. Koa Peat, if you are unaware, is the top-rated recruit in this year's recruiting cycle for basketball. Played at Perry, 4-time state champion. He's really good. If he committed to Arizona State, he would have usurped Jayden Quaintance as the highest-rated recruit in program history, and for very good reason. He is an insanely good player. And here's where I label this an unforgivable miss for Bobby Hurley. The timeline kind of goes like this. ASU has their ring in the hat for Koa Peat. And Koa Peat services are demanded all across the country. U of A is pursuing him. Houston is pursuing him. There's no shortages for people who would like to add such an insanely talented player to their team. But at some point, ASU got in the driver's seat for Koa Peat. Like, they were in the HOV lane, cruising, having a good old time. And then everything fell apart. A train crash of a season just derailed everything. Pun intended on that, not going to lie. And not only does the team falter, not only do you lose the interest of the fans, but then everyone transfers. And then right after that, you start losing the goal to keep this program afloat. And that was to land Koa Peat, who you would have landed. I feel so unbelievably positive that Koa Peat was going to be an Arizona State Sun Devil before everything derailed. This is another reason why I say, like, you can't let injuries define your season. Yeah, it was a huge part of this, but ASU knew they needed to find a way to overcome it because of what was on the line. Koa Peat could have changed this program. And Koa Peat commits to this program, Jayden Quaintance stays. I promise. I promise Jayden Quaintance stays if he knows that Koa Peat is coming to this program. So that's a bummer. And the worst part is he committed to Arizona just to rub salt in the wound. It's going down south. This never should have happened. But honestly, it is a perfect picture of the current state of this program. This program does not go to the postseason. When they do, they screw it up. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out once again to the best supporters of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast in the whole world, who make us your first listen or your first view of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. The Sun Devils don't go to the postseason very often. When they do, they don't do nothing with it. They don't do nothing with it. But don't worry, other people do stuff with it. We'll get there. In 10 years, Bobby Hurley has made the tournament technically 3 times. He has been in the first 4 play-in round every single time. He is 2-1 in the play-in round. Well, it's winning record. Yeah, but he's 0-2 in the round of 64, the actual tournament. So, first of all, as far as I'm concerned, he is winless in the postseason. Second of all, even if you want to give him his first 4, 2-3, that's still a losing record, no matter how you want to split it. You can give him the first 4 wins, and he still has a losing record. Now, for what it's worth, you did have the 2019-2020 season, which we lost such a great chance to make some noise in that tournament. We were going to the tournament. That was a special team, man. They were cooking. And unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic had forced so many things to shut down, and the NCAA tournament was one of them. So we kind of look back at, like, the one that got away, what could have been for the 2019-2020 team not going to the tournament. Now, I mean, given the track record, probably going to go one and done. Like, they Bobby does not get his guys prepared for the postseason the way he should. And you're going to find out exactly what I mean here in a second. So when you consider the amount of talent, when you consider the amount of time that he has had here too, 3 appearances, could have been 4, but still in 10 years, that's less than half the amount that you have been here. By the way, he has 4 winning seasons. All those seasons were 20 plus wins. All those seasons were tournament appearances plus the COVID canceled season. Every other season, every single other season, the other 6 years, under 500. So there's no in between here. It's 20 wins or it's a losing record. That's unacceptable. And again, it's not for a lack of recruiting because Bobby can recruit. There's one thing we know he can do is recruit. There's one thing we know he can't do. It's clearly coach it. Now, if you don't believe me, allow me to close the podcast out with something that might upset a lot of people. And quite frankly, it probably should. Because when the Sun Devils don't go to the tournament, they're former players who do find their way into the tournament. End up doing pretty good. 3 examples for you. 3 guys, first of all, who should have never left the program. Let's start with the most controversial one, because there are some people who love him, and there are some people who believe he scorned the university. Again, this is also one I would love to see you leave a comment and let me know what you think. Me personally, I still love him, and I'm very happy that he was able to do what he did. That, of course, is Remy Martin. Martin played 4 seasons at ASU. Like enough to where you could make an argument to put his jersey up in the rafters because he was a good player. 30.7 minutes per game, 14.9 points per game, shot just under 43% from the field, 33.6% from the line, 76.2% from the line. He was a really good basketball player, and he was a part of some good teams. He was a part of that COVID canceled season. He was phenomenal. Now, he was granted an extra year of eligibility because COVID had wiped out a whole year for a lot of players. He used that to transfer to Kansas. And he goes to Kansas, and it's really not that great. He's playing 21 minutes a game, 8.6 points per game, shooting 46% from the field, 38% from 3, 75% from the free throw line. It's whatever, right? Well, as you would assume, Kansas is able to get into the tournament, which they do on a near annual basis. Well, once they got in the tournament, that's when things got crazy. And it turns out that Remy Martin is really good at basketball. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but he tears it up. And I don't know if Kansas considers him a postseason legend, but they should. Because as a 6th man for the Jayhawks, he helped carry them to that championship. 23.8 minutes per game. So, little over 2 more minutes per game, and he shot up from 8.6 points per game to 14. His field goal percentage went from 46.2% to 51.7%. 3-point shooting went from 38.2% to 47.6%. He was unstoppable. He had huge games for Kansas, and I stand firm on this. The Jayhawks do not win that championship without a guy like Remy Martin coming off of the bench and being their 6th man. So, again, I want to know in the comments, are you guys happy for Remy that he got the ring, or do you think it's pretty crappy and don't like that? Let me know in the comments. I totally support him. I love Remy Martin. Second guy who should have never left, DJ Horn. DJ Horn hurt when he left because he was one of the most consistent and quality players that the Sun Devils have had since COVID. The 2 seasons he spent at Arizona State, he played just under 30 minutes per game, 12.5 points per game, 38% shooter from the field, which surprises me. I feel like it would have been better. 35.7% 3-point shooter and as elite a free throw guy as we've seen with 84.1%. So he moves on to NC State and his numbers increase. He goes to 32.5 minutes per game, 16.9 points per game, 43.6% field goals, 40.4% three-point percentage. That's a nice upgrade across the board. He's playing almost 3 extra minutes. He is averaging nearly 5 more points per game. His field goal percentage increased by nearly 6%. His three-point shooting increased by nearly 5%. Absolutely insane. And it didn't stop there because NC State, guess what? They got in the tournament. And guess what? He went on a tear. The Wolfpack goes all the way to the Final Four. And in that time, DJ Horne was not only undisputedly the best player on NC State, he was one of the best players in the tournament. 35.4 minutes per game, 17.2 points per game, 39.5% field goal shooting, 34.3% three-point percentage, and he shot up to 87.5% from the line. He got a lot of opportunities when he was out there, and he was dominating the competition. I don't know how many people were expecting NC State to go to the Final Four that didn't attend NC State, but I certainly did not see that coming. And to see that DJ Horne was the guy leading the charge, it was cool to see, but man, did it break my heart. It did. And then the last guy who should have never left, Jemiah Neal. If you are a longtime listener of this podcast, you know that Jemiah Neal is one of the original crushes on this podcast. I had been clamoring for Neal since he was a freshman. When he finally got a starting opportunity last year, he was pretty solid. But unfortunately, he spent 3 years at ASU and he really struggled to get on the court. So you look at his time at ASU, 21.4 minutes per game, just over 6 points per game, 38.8% field goal, 26.9% three-point. Like, it's so skewed because he only got to start 1 year. And it was amazing that he even stayed with ASU that long, which made it heartbreaking when he decided to enter the portal. He goes to Creighton, and we essentially see what he had done in his lone starting season with ASU. Averaging 34.3 minutes per game, 12 points per game, 44.7% from the field, 31.2% from deep. Pretty solid. That's what we had been accustomed to. And then, of course, they get to the tournament because that's just the trend for former ASU players. They get to the tournament with their next team. And they have a big win over Louisville. And Jemiah Neal was the guy in that game. He played 39 minutes, so, basically didn't get off the court. 29 points. He shot almost 70% from the field, 40% from deep. He also had 12 rebounds, by the way. He went bananas. Insane what he did. Now, they did go on to lose to Auburn, but even in Auburn, he was fine. I mean, he was what he did on his averages. 37 minutes, 13 points, 38.5% field goal, 40% three-point. Like, it's a little bit lower on his field goal percentage. It's still right at the points. Getting a win, period. Good for him. God, it sucks. It sucks to see our guys go on and have so much more success. And these are players that ASU never wanted to lose to the portal. We never wanted to lose Remy. We never wanted to lose DJ. We never wanted to lose Jemiah, but they did. And they go on to go to teams that make the tournament, and lo and behold, they make impacts. Because it was never a player problem. It was a coaching problem. One day I want to sit down and I want to make an all-time Bobby Hurley roster. And it's going to be an insanely good roster. Insanely good. Several NBA players. Several 5-stars. And I think even with that team, Bobby would find a way to have a losing season. He certainly would find a way to choke when it matters. These are the biggest fumbles that Bobby Hurley has ever had, ranging from Jayden Quaintance to other recruiting like Koa Peat, and then all the way to the playoffs, whether ASU made it and lost, or whether they had to watch their old players win games. What do you guys consider the biggest fumble of the Bobby Hurley era, which is still ongoing, by the way? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36 or the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. You'll get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. And a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in. We will be keeping you up to date with all of the exciting basketball news that's going on. But don't worry, I do know football is still a thing. And I know that recruiting is ticking up. And the end of April is going to be huge. Now's never been a better time to subscribe to the show. I'll catch you guys next time. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.